Morning, Sir Peter.
Morning, Reginald.
Anything to take in, sir?
No, just me.
Sir.
Thank you. There's a fire down by the river.
Yes, sir.
Plenty of water. Soon put it out.
Yes, sir.
С какой стати, билеты пропустить? Почему не можно после обеда?
Это не проблема. Поступайте, как нужно.
Come in. Good morning, Phyllis. Do come in.
Good morning, sir.
Передайте ему, что я куплю ланч у Симпсона. Ему это очень понравится.
До свидания.
До свидания.
And on Tuesday, you'll have to leave early for Cambridge, for the Anglo-German conference.
Well, I may chuck that out, depending what's on in the Treasury. If I go, I'd like to go in the train. I prefer it.
We've got several meetings here on Wednesday, mainly constituency business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, looks a bit full. Oh, I don't want to see him.
And on Thursday, you're due to give the annual Freedom of Speech lecture at your old school, followed by lunch with the boys.
Do I have to stay for lunch?
Oh, it's tradition.
God help me. Well, you'd better book me a haircut. I feel as if it's all over my shoulders.
Well, it's already quite full, and I'd like to keep the rest of this time clear. I may have to go to Geneva on Wednesday, so be prepared to cancel that. Have the Russians said yes to Thursday?
Yes, they have.
For lunch?
Yes.
Good. Something traditional, I think, don't you? Roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, perhaps.
Right.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Robbie.
Morning, Mr. Blake.
Morning.
I'll tell Sir Peter you're here.
Thank you.
Would you like some coffee?
No, thanks.
How was Moscow? You didn't say much on Friday.
Impressive. I've put through a report.
Good. I don't think you should do a thing about it, shouldn't it?
I agree.
They're paying the interest.
Had to fight my way through the Japanese.
What else?
Kozlov, working hard on our behalf.
Good. Ready, Robbie?
Ready?
Ready, Barbara?
Yes, Sir Peter.
All ready, Mr. Waters?
Everything is clean, Miss Knight.
Thank you.
Did you know, incidentally, the Chinese are doing great things with earthquakes? They're a big problem for the Chinese. They haven't got adequate warning systems. They need to know when to get the Chinese bums out of the Chinese skyscrapers before the whole damn chute comes crashing down on the Chinese heads.
It's a problem.
I'll say. They've got over 10,000 people working on the project, but they lack technology.
We should move on it.
I think so.
Perhaps we could raise it this morning.
That sounds like a good one for Kenneth.
Mr. Scott is not here. He has something at the Treasury. And Mr. Ferguson is at the Anglo-Soviet Trade Council headquarters.
Good. Now, opening blurb. As you all know, we've been contemplating some major modifications in our global strategy, and we face some vital decisions on our new investment priorities. We've just seen the closure of 2 of our factories here and one in Eisenbach. They had to go, now this will follow. We've got some important negotiations in the pipeline, and I wanted to grab the opportunity of a short confab with the benefit of Harry's presence before he darts back to America. So let's get to it. Now, we have the Russians coming to lunch next Thursday. They're over here in coachloads, offering us a chance to get in the next 5-year plan. Robbie?
Well, the British government's very keen to get in on the act. They're to provide financial backing in the form of credit to the Russians.
Yes, so the big do to herald the whole thing. A lot of top boffos from the Treasury, the PM, the Governor of the Bank of England, and the Russians imported an impressive display. All KGB, that as it may. Every man jack of them. Sorry. Do go on, Robbie, the credits.
Yes, Peter. So the Russians are now out shopping with £2 billion worth of British credits in their back pockets.
A lot of big contracts in the air.
What's in it for us?
Well, we haven't got an official shopping list. We get that Thursday lunchtime, but Jeff's been working on it.
There's a good chance that we are shopping for a new tyre production plant. Long-term, large-scale cooperation projects, that's still their main thrust. Transferring Western technology to the USSR.
Peter, before we move in on any deals with the Russians, I think we should take some time to look at the alternatives.
Most definitely.
Taking up the Russian deal would not exclude alternatives.
If we're talking about a tyre production plant, it could explode Brazil, which is beginning to shape up very well.
Yes, Brazil is a very strong contender.
And Argentina.
I think we have to move fast on this. The Japanese are all over Moscow. Germans, the French, and they're doing a lot of business.
It's the same in Peking.
Let's take a look at Czechoslovakia. We have a new tyre production plant over there just coming on stream. That's right, isn't it, Clarke?
That's right, Sir Peter. It's a relatively small plant, but it's producing as many tyres as the two factories we've recently closed down here.
Credit to our DM computer system.
I also negotiated and concluded a contract to agent the Czech-owned tyres, their exports to the West.
What's the deal with the Czechs?
Joint ownership.
50-50 right down the middle, including personnel.
It's good to know that we're moving on this so positively. But the Russians are not going to be so easy as the Czechs.
No, but we have already negotiated 2 projects with the Russians, and they're going well.
I can't see you getting any co-ownership deals out of them. The means of production belong to the people. It's one of the cornerstones of socialist ideological principle. They've got to stick to it.
It's only the Russians who are holding out. The satellites could not have Western-owned factories without the tacit approval of the Kremlin. I think we're going to see Western-owned factories in Russia, and soon. We're just a step away from co-ownership. Sooner or later, they're going to be forced to change the constitution.
Let's change tack a bit. Let's just look at the situation at home. Whatever we do in the future, we must keep our tails clean on the home front. We've already closed down 2 of our factories in England, and there are others in the pipeline. They're in absolute need of replacement, and there's political trouble there, too. Bob, do you see any light for us here in England?
Not in the immediate future, no. We've had a lot of trouble with these plants. We have a strike in one today. There's a lot of militant labour. The shop steward movement is out of control. TUC can't control them. And there's a lot of Trotskyite and communist entryism. One can only hope that legislation will bring tighter controls.
So closures are going to mean trouble?
They could cause a lot of trouble, yes.
So there's militant labor working in technically obsolete plants. If they're going to be viable, there's got to be a major reinvestment program, right?
Yes, but in the current climate here, that's out of the question.
The closures here are inevitable. I think we all accept that as a fact of life. And we must move on other projects to get tyres rolling in to compensate for the closures. Now, this Russian setup is a very attractive proposition. It would enable us to continue our strategy of obsolete plant closures here, and we can use the credits being made available by the government and the banks to establish a new plant in Russia without digging into our own capital. We could then find ourselves with the option to put down another plant in Brazil.
How do you feel about that, Harry?
If that was possible, I'd feel a good deal better.
Good. Personally, I think we can live in hopes of a more stable situation here in Britain. The militants have to be controlled, don't they? However, our prime export is no longer the product. Our prime export is our means of production, our technology, and wherever it goes, we must maintain our monopoly. South America, the Third World, and Eastern Europe. Last year in the UK, we lost 10% of our working time in strikes. That's very bad business, and it's got to stop. An Eastern European future where we won't have any worries about labour problems, disputes, strikes, closures, is, to say the least, an attractive proposition. I think we all agree. Let's move on the project.
Yes.
Good. Now, let's look carefully at Brazil and China.
This is a fine school. It is a British school. And I believe there is an essential affinity between these 2 facts. We are living through one of the most turbulent eras in the history of man. And some of you will soon be stepping out of this fine British school into that troubled world. From this you may have gathered that I am a patriot and a nationalist. I am a patriot and a nationalist. Yes, and I am proud to be a nationalist. That is because I believe that we British have an important strategic role to play in the global arena. In a world full of Arabs, communists, and unpredictable foreigners, there is something deeply reassuring in the fundamental decency and loyalty among friends that is the hallmark of being British. But that is not what I came here today to tell you. I am here today to tell you that détente, the pursuit of peaceful coexistence between East and West, the pursuit of peace between Iron Curtain countries of the communist bloc in the East and the freedom-loving democracies in the West, I am here to tell you that this détente is dead. Behind the peace-loving cloak of détente, the Soviet Union has built a mighty military empire. In Russia, the voice of freedom is dying in the gulags. And now the spectre of the Russian bear casts a dark shadow over our democracy and our individual freedom.
Thank God you're here. I thought I'd have to stay for lunch.
If we go for this one, we must know you'll stick with us.
If you want to take advantage of our peaceful and well-ordered industrial relations, you'll have to join the queue.
You're not going to get this from anywhere else, comrade. That's why you're with me now. Could be classified as sensitive. Nobody's going to offer you this kind of hardware because they simply haven't got it. So I don't think we should spend a lot of time playing footsie.
What the hell is footsie?
It's what Pavitsky does. And he wastes 3 hours arguing something you and I can settle in 3 minutes. Stop looking at your watch, you schmuck. What do you think this is?
I have another appointment.
You always have another appointment.
It's more than a rumor, much more. Nobody's suggesting that the credits should be withdrawn. Not yet. No, the credits are secure. But the suggestion is that the government may demand better conditions for their guarantees of credit, which means the banks may have to demand a higher interest rate from the Russians.
Demand? That was the word, was it? Demand?
Yes, I believe it was.
Typical. The Russians may not wear it, you know. Is anybody else contemplating such action? The Germans? French?
No, not a murmur.
Not a murmur. We hardly need this, Teddy.
Oh, I know.
Who's the culprit?
I'm not sure who it's coming from, but it's coming from inside the cabinet. My bet's on Pillman.
Yes, Pillman. He's just that sort of fool.
It's the publicity, Peter. He enjoys the publicity.
Well, why doesn't somebody sit in him?
If it is him.
Oh, I'll bet he's the culprit. Once Pillman gets hold of the wrong end of the stick, he never lets go.
Well, everybody's being rather sheepish about it at the moment. But if he's provoked, he might start shouting about it in the House.
It's the last thing we want at the moment. If the banks are happy, then the government should be happy. He ought to know that. How was your do this morning?
Well, the place looked different, but it smelled the same.
Sweaty shirts and chalk.
Something like that.
What are we going to do about Pillman? If the Cabinet let him loose on this, I shall certainly withdraw my support for the party's media campaign. Perhaps you could drop that in the right ear hole.
And I could speak to Turner and Piercy at the House this evening.
We really need a new recruit in Pillman's department. Oh, Jeff, well done. Come along, sit down.
Thanks. Edward, hello.
Hello, Geoffrey.
You're very late, but we can still serve you some excellent lamb cutlets.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Think so?
Mineral water.
I'll do that. You can leave all that stuff just now, Andrew. Thank you. Teddy tells me Pillman's been stirring it up in the Cabinet, bullying the banks to up their interest rates to the Russians. We are going to arrange to have Turner and Piercy sit on him.
Thank you.
How have you got on?
It looks good. And they've got quite a shopping list, and Kozlov is already very busy.
Popular chap, is he?
Flavour of the month?
What's on the list for us? Jeff's been discussing possible projects with Kozlov for some time.
He's coming on strong for us to lay down a massive new tyre production plant somewhere in the Ukraine. There's no doubt that they've been to Czechoslovakia and had a damn good look at our factory there.
I'm sure they've put their noses all around it. Our new Czech factory just coming on stream, running very smoothly.
Yes, good.
They must have been impressed.
Very impressed.
I should damn well think so.
They want theirs to be even better.
Really? What are they after?
They want the laser technology.
Lasers? How do they know about the lasers?
I told Kozlov about the new process. Not too much, just enough.
Good. They're very ambitious, aren't they? There was a time when all they wanted was technology. Any old tackle would do, but now they only want the best.
Lasers? Tell me about the lasers.
We can vulcanise by laser, a marvellous new process, a byproduct from our aerospace.
So what's the layout? What's the proposed scheme, the project?
We supply and install the technological means of production for a factory on-site in Russia to manufacture our new Steel Whip Mark III radial tyre.
And that would include laser technology, yes?
And our DM computer system.
That's what they were nosing at in Czechoslovakia.
But it's the lasers that they're after, yes?
Well, that's what they're hot for. It would make it one of the most efficient and up-to-date tyre production factories in the world.
We'll have to think very hard about the terms.
Well, buyback would be essential.
Are they to be trusted?
How do you mean, Teddy?
I mean, can you guarantee the quality of the tyres? One hears the most appalling stories of their incompetence.
We put in our own personnel, our own management. We demand that. That would be one guarantee of quality. And it's our technology. That's our biggest guarantee. The tyre frames and molds will give a product mix identical in every aspect to tyres produced in the UK. They will look and be exactly the same. Better. Totally acceptable on the home market.
And the cost of manufacturing them would be considerably lower.
Of course.
Yes. Well, lasers could be on the prohibited list. Sensitive, you know. It could create a lot of problems. I'll have to check it out.
Don't like that. Better not to ask any questions than not to have any questions asked.
It might be better to clear it and be safe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but once they've got the laser technology, couldn't they convert it to a military purpose? I mean, one could have difficulties arguing around that.
It's a damn long way from a weapon system. I think I could argue very eloquently around it.
The military may not need it.
So could you, if you think about it.
Same sort of problem as the DM computer, isn't it? And that was rather sticky.
We got it through.
Oh, yes, but it was difficult.
Turner helped a lot, didn't he? But you do have one point, Teddy. It would be a pity to give them something they haven't paid for.
If we don't go in there with lasers, you can bet your ass somebody else will.
Quite so. I think it's good, Geoffrey. I like it.
So what's your next move?
We have an official meeting with the Russians tomorrow. The usual form, Dr. Pavitsky pretending he can't speak English and that it's written on a piece of paper. The usual nonsense. One of the Russians' chief negotiating tactics is to bore the other party to death. But if we can go in there knowing that they want the project, then we sit tight and hold the advantage. We'll talk to Robbie straight away and get him to do a complete analysis on the whole setup.
Putting up the prices, inflation, is an inbuilt part of the structure. Got it? Wages have nothing to do with it. Reduce wages by 20%, you'd still have inflation. Wages have as much influence on inflation as my farts on space travel. Assets, monopoly. Control, that's where the power lies.
Oh, you can't lose.
Only fools fight to lose, comrade. Leave that to the workers.
And the unemployed?
Balls to your non-existent conscience, Brother Kozlov. The unemployed are just a sign of our mutual prosperity.
The tyre plant. It looks good. Very good.
It's the one we should go for?
I see no point in discussing anything else. We can save a lot of time and get down to business.
We've no time to waste.
Good. Consider the contract signed. What's for lunch?
Roast beef.
Still no sign. I've had him do a thorough check. I get the lot. Party left at 10 and is expected here at 12:30.
Where were they supposed to be before they came to us?
They wouldn't say.
Are you hungry?
Becky, sure.
Me too. I missed breakfast. I've not eaten a thing. I was a bloody castle off.
They're here. They've had their lunch. Lunch will not be served in here today.
Именем моих товарищей и себя лично я бы хотел воспользоваться случаем и выразить наше искреннее и чистосердечное извинение в связи с тем, что мы не могли воспользоваться вашим приглашением на ланч.
On behalf of my comrades, I would like to take this opportunity to extend to you our honest and sincere apologies for not having been able to take advantage of your kind invitation to lunch.
Мы надеемся, что это недоразумение не повлияет на плохое отношение между вашей корпорацией и Советским Союзом.
We trust this will not cause ill will between your corporation and the Soviet Union.
И мы глубоко сожалеем, что не могли воспользоваться вашей гостеприимностью, разделить с вами трапезу, а в особенности от себя добавлю ваш восхитительный рост-биф. Приношу наше искреннее извинение.
It was with great regret that we were not able to share your food with you, particularly as I understand your roast beef is very delicious. Our apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Vassin, for your kind words. As you say, the roast beef would have been delicious. I would like, on behalf of UK Multimotive, to welcome you here. We are most encouraged by your presence. As we have done good business together in the past, I would like to suggest, with respect to being among friends, as it were, that we keep our formalities to a minimum and that we get right down to business. Welcome.
Я думаю, что он прав. Не будем задерживать.
Я не против, чего время тратить.
Я возьму слово.
И давай по сущности.
Dr. Pavitsky, Vice Chairman of the State Committee for Science and Technology.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, each time I come to Britain, I have met representatives of business circles of your country, and irrespective of different climates, favorable or cool, during my visit I always get convinced that British businessmen are people of great experience and common sense. They are realistic. They are able, from my point of view, to remain calm when the world is in a changing situation. This creates a good basis for fruitful discussion and helps to reach mutual understanding and solutions which would best correspond to the interests of both sides and to contribute to the developing and strengthening of our business cooperation. There is a considerable competition in the world market, and the Soviet Union will be viewing all potential agreements with a critical eye. If you happen to be visiting Moscow now, you will hear more French, German, Swedish, and Japanese spoken than English. Nevertheless, the British government has been successful in negotiating an extension of credit to the Soviet Union. The extension of the credit is an opportunity for both our countries to develop further a reciprocal trade. The signing of the contracts will depend on many factors. The technological standard of the equipment is high on the list of our priorities. The Soviet Union is rich in raw materials. Therefore, we will be looking to purchase under license manufacturing processes in several priority areas: food processing, the chemical industry, machine tools and engineering, aeronautics. Through negotiations with Mr. Vassin, my comrade from the Ministry of Foreign Trade, we are seeking protocol agreements for the purchase of a large variety of consumer goods. The Soviet Union has a noble tradition in the sciences. Research for the furtherance of science and the good of mankind is one of the highest ideals of the people of the Soviet Union. To this great end, we are looking to sign cooperation agreements for research and development in the following: health, biomedical and clinical studies, environmental protection, air pollution, earthquake prediction.
What the hell is going on? What prompted the Vice Chairman for the State Committee of Science and Technology to deliver 35 minutes of non-technological verbal crap? The guy's a pompous arsehole.
Remember that.
I will.
Remember who he is.
He's not likely to let me forget.
Don't fall out with him. He's your key. He's a very powerful man.
And he knows it. And what's all this shit about the British government has been fortunate to negotiate credit terms with the USSR? It's us lending you, not the other way around, 7.25%. Do you know what interest I have to pay on a loan?
I cannot urinate if you are banging me on the shoulder.
If I default on a debt, the bank cuts my balls up for gravy. If Russia defaults, they'll lend them another $1 billion.
Russia does not default on its debts.
All right. I'm hungry. I need lunch. I've not eaten all day. Where the hell have you been?
We were offered lunch at a previous appointment. We could not refuse.
Corn on the cob, chicken Maryland, raspberry ripple, I'll bet my ass. You'd have done better here.
Well, no surprises here. Very much in line with what we expected.
That man Pavitsky is an appalling pain in the neck, just like my neighbours in Hampshire.
He's already delivered that speech twice today. Probably going for his hat trick right now. I'm going to have an early drink and an empty stomach. Anyone care to join me?
No, thanks. Thanks. Do we have to put up with him?
As far as we're concerned, he is the State Committee for Science and Technology.
He also ranks rather highly in the KGB, that as it may.
Once we get past the State Committee for Science and Technology, a vast arena of possibilities open up. Ministries, committees, institutes, research bodies. Once we've made a deal with Pavitsky, we're free to negotiate with everybody else. Here's our ticket.
I can see what Harry Kettner was driving at.
Yes, he's a bastard. But we can get around Dr. Pavitsky.
You mustn't let him get to you, Jeff. I can see your ears going red.
One of his levers is to hook you into research and development agreements. That way they can take your technology apart, pinch it, copy it,
like the Japanese,
and leave you with no deal.
That's something we can turn to our advantage, Geoffrey. We're not seeing the Russians again till a week on Friday.
But that means we lose 10 days.
I made it 10. They wanted only 6. We're not going to lose any of the good work you've done with Kozlov. We're still ahead. Our lot in North America are pushing hard in Brazil. I'd like to see their results, and Kettner has got a lot going in China. We need the time. Robbie, get someone to do a total analysis on all our other Eastern Bloc deals. Shove it through the computer model. We have the advantage of knowing what they want. Damn 'em. Let 'em wait.
Okay.
Computers and lasers.
Yes. Robbie's a bit worried.
Lasers are sensitive technology. We know that. The Russians could easily exploit them for military purposes. Also, our aerospace division has a laser weapons development program with the Ministry of Defense. And there are people who may not like it if we export this technology to Russia. We will have to get round them.
Bob?
I think we should look at the situation very carefully.
That's what I've just said, Bob.
If we are going to transfer the stuff, we need a watertight procedure.
Bob, could you do an exercise and present us with some possibilities?
Is it on the prohibited list?
There's a lot of pressure on this side of the Atlantic, particularly from the French and the Germans, to remove as many items on the prohibited list as possible. I think we could rely on them for support.
So we don't know it's on the list at the present time?
If it is on the list, I think we can create enough pressure to have it removed. Don't let's stir sleeping dogs, or we could find ourselves with some very sticky balls in the air. The Americans would almost certainly move against us.
Probably pick up the deal at the back door.
Once we have made the basic technology available to them, there's no way we can stop them converting the lasers to a military purpose.
The military may not need it.
They do have a general sitting at the negotiating table.
Always have a general sitting at the negotiating table.
It's a situation full of serious implications for the company. We must proceed with caution over the next 10 days.
We have a handle on this technology and we shouldn't lose it.
That's one of the points I'm making.
Precisely.
I think we should take some soundings from our people inside the government, and soon. But generally, keep a very low profile in this area.
Whittaker is being very constipated about this. We'll have to stir him up.
The market potential is enormous. If we don't do it, our competitors will.
The laser technology situation is very sticky. You know that, don't you? There are people in the government who can push us into the deep end.
If it comes to that, Teddy, let us hope that it doesn't. If anybody moves against us, you will have to persuade them that it most definitely will not be in their or the party's interests. And it doesn't matter a damn which party we're talking about.
You must stop now.
Sorry, Teddy. Keep in touch. Harry.
Hello, Peter.
Good of you to break the journey.
My pleasure.
Where are you heading?
Geneva. Peter, I had an intuition I didn't want to put on the line. It's important, and the intelligence is more than reliable.
Tell me.
We talked about this in our last meeting, but the situation is moving so fast I had to see you.
What's on?
It concerns the aerospace division. Most particularly the laser weapon technology.
Yes?
My intelligence is that the competition in the States is moving fast. And I really do mean fast. It's the California gold rush. They're pouring money into their laser weapon research. And at their present rate of development, they could beat us into the market. I know it presents problems for you here, but it's my firm conviction, Peter, that the company's aerospace program, and by that I really mean the laser program, must take the highest priority over all other investments.
Yes. Détente was oversold.
It's cooler now. There's a lot of smart money pouring into armaments. The situation is very positive. If our aerospace people could bring the laser weapon program out ahead of the competition, it will open up the entire military market for us.
It's there for the taking.
The dividends will be staggering. If they're onto this in the States in a big way, they're quietly injecting massive amounts of capital into their research and development programs, upping their budgets by 200% and 300%. And here's some of the details that I've had passed along to me. A lot of this has come in just the last few days. I'm sure it'll be useful for your guys.
I appreciate your attention on this matter, Harry. Our research program is moving, but it's not moving fast enough. We've had the edge on all these fellows in California, and we may still have it. But to get the lasers onto the market, we need a massive boost of funds which neither we nor the British government can afford. They're not going to put any more money into our kitty, and we could lose the market, as you say.
Mr. Kettner must leave now.
Thank you, Barbara. I'd appreciate it, Harry, if you'd keep your ear to the ground on this and other matters.
Sure. I'll be back through here in 10 or 12 days.
Ask Robbie to come in.
I think we have covered that this morning.
I agree. I think this morning's session was extremely constructive. We've gained a lot of ground, and in my mind, there is no doubt the tyre production plant should be our prime target. I think we're all agreed on that.
I think so.
It is now 3:30 precisely. As we've gained a lot of ground, perhaps this is a good time to stop.
I think we should look at the arrangements once again and then go home.
Yes, fine, by all means. Perhaps it would be useful to recap the headlines. Can you go over it for us, Clive?
Okay, let's do that.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand it. What it means to recap the headlines.
Они имеют в виду пройтись по результатам этого заседания. В главном, а не в деталях.
Спасибо.
Неужели это необходимо? Будем сейчас это обсуждать. Неужели это необходимо?
Да, продолжайте.
Are we agreed? Is that what we're going to do?
Yes, let's get on with it, Clive.
Okay, let's go.
The product, gentlemen, is our new Steel Whip Mark III radial tyre. You've already got our research and development statistics, and I think you will agree on the first-class quality of the product. Obviously, we've not yet had the opportunity to map out a production schedule, but I would anticipate a 3-year run-up period from the signing of the contracts to the factory coming on stream. I think that's reasonable. We could start preliminaries for full-scale planning almost immediately. To carve the whole thing up into its basic units, we will be responsible for the provision of all the hardware, and you will be responsible for the provision of a proper site. That is, for the factory buildings, the infrastructure services, water, gas, electricity, and transport facilities. We will provide the technological means of production, including the machine tools, which we will transfer to your factory site in Russia, install, and bring the plant to full operational service. I think that's as far as we've gone.
How long before you can provide a more detailed breakdown, Clive?
In Russian, 2 days.
That's fine, no problems.
Excellent. Where are you contemplating siting the factory?
It will be sited on a modern industrial complex.
Yes, good.
We haven't yet mentioned manpower.
No, we haven't, have we? As the subject has been raised, I think the most sensible proposal would be to follow the basic terms of our last agreement. We provide the skilled manpower to train your chaps, but unlike our past arrangements, we would require the permanent posting on site in Russia of UKM personnel in all key positions.
Not necessary, not possible. Once our people have mastered the techniques, we don't need your personnel on our site.
Yeah, it would be unnecessary expense.
We can go into that in detail at our next meeting. What we ought to be discussing here is a joint venture such as we have in Czechoslovakia.
What do you mean exactly by joint venture?
I mean our company should maintain co-ownership of the means of production.
Что он предлагает?
Он предлагает владение на общих паях.
Нет.
I think we would have to consult and take advice on that one. However, we are willing to consider a cooperation agreement.
Yes, I'm sure you are.
We would also offer you buyback facilities.
Co-production could only become possible on a minimum basis of 50-50.
No. I understand your banks may demand higher interest rates. 50-50 is out.
Once you have the technical details, I think you will begin to appreciate the sophistication of this plant.
In Russia, we have good industrial relations, no strikes. You appreciate good industrial relations, I know. We are willing to produce in Russia tires for you, good tires, and we will not complain if it is we who are accused of dumping.
That is out of the question.
But you will make good profits, you know. You no longer need all your factories here. You will close them down.
If we are forced to make closures here, we shall have to compensate for these closures, which means a 50-50 deal becomes of decisive importance. And I would stress that is our minimum requirement, depending on other factors in the negotiation.
Sir Peter, my friend, I appreciate what you are saying, but this is something we cannot possibly agree to at this time. We have to check this one out. But at this time, I think we can agree in principle to a cooperation agreement and to offer you facilities to buy back a percentage of the tires produced. We would also look to make an agreement whereby you will act as our distribution agent for the tires we export to the West.
We will be willing to negotiate on that at our next meeting, all right?
Товарищ Емельянов, соглашение о научной не было упомянуто.
Мне казалось, мне это обсудили раз.
Не можем игнорировать.
Tavares Dr. Pravitsky wishes to raise the question of research and development.
At our last meeting, you proposed that we should sign a formal agreement for research and development into this project. I would like to confirm this before we go further.
Sorry, could I just clarify? Are you referring to our last meeting? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Dr. Pavitsky, I think that what we're discussing here is technology that has already been researched and developed. Our aim is to go into production without delay. With regard to this project, such an agreement is quite impossible.
It will be difficult for the State Committee for Science and Technology to negotiate any kind of an agreement unless it includes research and development.
Perhaps we have a language barrier difficulty here. I believe that what I actually said was, it'll be in a minute, I expressed the company's interest in your proposals for general research and development. Perhaps I did not make myself clear.
I think it was very clear.
Perhaps I should check in the minutes.
In the Soviet Union, our science is a collective achievement. It belongs to the people. It is our collective duty in the interest of peace and detente between East and West that we should strengthen the bond between us through the exploration of science and technology.
I couldn't agree more. The USSR has the finest tradition in pure science, while here in the West we lead the world in the science of technology. A marriage of these two prestigious forces would be of substantial benefit to us all. But at this time, to cause any delay in exploiting this particular means of production would cost us the delicate lead we have achieved in the world market. I'm sure you will appreciate this.
Я хотел бы сказать, что для Советского Союза невозможно будет продолжать дальнейшие переговоры, если представители компании не обеспечат полный доступ к исследованиям и развитию.
Comrade Dr. Pervitsky wishes to say it will not be possible for the USSR to proceed with further discussions with your company unless you concede total access to research and development.
Пошли.
Why do you always turn on the tap?
Christ knows. You never know who's listening.
We're in your headquarters. This is your building. Must we always meet on the toilet?
The only place you can have a straight discussion. Pavitsky is an asshole.
You said that last time.
Wait until we demand joint ownership, then he's going to bust his files.
You won't get it. A corporation deal. Be satisfied. Share the spoils.
Why not joint ownership? And don't give me any of that crap about capitalist ownership contradicting the first principle of socialism.
It does, but that is not the reason.
Look, we are not offering first-generation rubbish. It's our best. Now, you know as well as I do that our technology, any technology, it's mobile, it's constantly changing. In another 3 or 4 years' time, there'll be better stuff pushing its way in. We have to go on it now.
I agree. That's why we must have research and development.
Screw the research. We have to capitalize on it now, otherwise we lose out. We're offering you the best. What more do you want? Look, does Pavitsky want a deal? I mean, what is he trying to do?
Why don't you ask Sir Peter?
What?
Look, comrade, there is no conflict. Dr. Pavitsky wants a bigger deal. He wants total access to research and development. Ask Sir Peter.
Shit. much do you know about our aerospace?
Only what you told me.
I said nothing about lasers.
Neither did I. Don't be so paranoid. We know that your industrial technology is highly sophisticated. But why stop there? If your aerospace people are interested, tell them to get in touch. Don't forget to turn off the taps.
Handbags to hand grenades.
Millions to billions.
Yes. Kettner tells me we could lose our aerospace sales to the US. The whole of our laser project with its nose in the dirt. The Americans are going forward by leaps and bounds. I've been chewing on that for the past few days. Old Pavitsky's very good, isn't he? Puts up a good show. I wish we could hire him. It's a very attractive proposition, isn't it? What do you think?
If we don't, somebody else will.
Uncharted waters. We'll have to navigate very carefully.
It's a first for us. Others have done it. I'm sure we'll have no problem.
There'll be acres of problems, but we can handle it. It makes a tire factory into very small beer, doesn't it?
What about Whitehall?
That's what Teddy's for. And all the rest of them. Let's get Robbie into this.
Is Whittaker secure?
We do have others, but he knows about the deal. I think he can handle it. Find out where Kozlov will be over the weekend. Let Pavitsky know we're going to think seriously about research and development, but the plant must go ahead without delay. I think he'll agree. I'll talk to Boris. Barbara, get Robbie, will you?
Oh, I like that one.
Do you? Put it in myself, personally.
Really?
Pretty, isn't it?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Does it have a name?
Probably.
Oh, it's so much lawn. You must have to spend a lot of time in the garden.
Oh, we have a couple of chaps around to give us a hand, you know?
It's in good shape. Must be a full-time job.
You can't get too fussy about lawns, otherwise one spends one's life worrying about brown patches and pearl water. Good afternoon. Teddy, hello. Leave you, chaps. See you later. Hello, Teddy. Expected you to lunch. What kept you?
I just thought of something extremely funny.
Really?
I've just had lunch with Foster from the Treasury.
God help you. You'll probably need a stomach pump.
Exactly. He's been collecting third-rate restaurants for years.
Let's go to the pool. It's quiet there.
Anyway, I had to have lunch with him.
Hello, good afternoon. Nice to see you. God knows who they are.
Pavitsky and the rest of them, do they know you're here?
Why should they not know? It was a collective decision that I should come here.
All those in favor say aye.
We are handling a lot of negotiations right now. We are interested to make a contract. We have lost too much time.
I just want to know who I'm dealing with, that's all. How far are you authorized to go?
What have you got to offer?
We're in rather difficult water with our aerospace project, Teddy. It could flounder at the last minute through lack of support.
You mean the Ministry of Defense?
Them and us, although they've been bloody stingy all the way through, not to mention short-sighted. You did your best. But it's not just a matter of funds, it's also a question of facilities. We've pushed millions into our research and development, and we need millions more before we can begin to capitalize in the arms market. It's an appalling dilemma, Teddy. The armaments industry is on the threshold of one of its most remarkable breakthroughs in history. In business terms, that means a bonanza. The US government research subsidy, all to private firms, Mark, who like ours, makes the British contribution to UKM look like a hand out of the dough. What can we do? The American-based companies sitting in that Californian sun are going to scoop the world market from under our very noses.
And how does this affect your Russian project?
They know we're using laser beams in industry, and I'm sure they're very impressed by what we're offering them in that area. They are doing research into beam technology, and they know that we are doing the same. It's rather obvious that they want to compare notes.
We must have some kind of limitations agreement. Otherwise, you just rip off our technology. We can't just sign a research and development agreement and hope for the best. We must have some kind of guarantee of secrecy.
You will sign a research agreement with the State Committee for Science and Technology, right?
Maybe.
And then you will sign a manufacturing agreement with the appropriate trade organization, right?
Let us hope so.
Then that is your contract. That is your guarantee.
It's not enough. We're not just talking about car tires, you know.
Stones, arrows, bullets, cannonballs, bombs, missiles, beams, particle beams, laser beams, beam technology. That's the great leap forward that's revolutionizing all our concepts of warfare. That's the bonanza. Our share in this will be a laser cannon satellite potential, which means a laser can be mounted on a satellite and launched into space where it can knock out all the missiles the enemy cares to put up. The component can also be used in planes, tanks, guns, and so on. The US hate us because we're ahead on this one. We've got the edge.
But at your current rate of development, your lack of funds and so on, they're going to get there before you.
And we'll lose millions. That's why we need the Russians.
The Russians?
Yes, they can't make a good refrigerator to save their backsides, but they do have wonderful facilities for military research. Mines, personnel, laboratories, everything. That's where they really spend their money. And they have satellite lifting. They've got hardware in space that we can use for testing, and so on.
I see. Well, you certainly won't get that in the UK.
Impossible. We've got bugger all out there. But if we can put our heads together with the Russians, there's no doubt we'll come out on top and scoop the world's market. I really can't turn down the offer.
No, of course, you can't.
You don't like it, Teddy, do you?
It's a matter of billions, yes?
Yes. We've not done anything like this before. But I believe there are precedents.
What about the press?
Oh, once you've trained a dog to bark, you don't expect it suddenly to start squawking like a parrot. No. Whitehall. That's where we'll need our diplomacy. No embarrassing questions. I want you to look after it, Teddy.
We can make a deal with one of your piddling little governmental trade departments. Keep it in the family. Secrets, right?
Right.
For the monumental state, USSR Incorporated, and come along and say, screw you and your secrets, we can do what the hell we want with them. And set up more factories designed on our patents, our technology, and sell those products all over the world. Where's our cut? Up you, says the state, and it stays up you. Till your factories go out of date and you're back wanting more technology. No go.
You're not in a good humor today. One State Department cannot sign an agreement which guarantees secrecy from the state. That's ridiculous. What happens to the sovereignty of the state?
Screw the state.
And in my state, the means of production belong to the people. The people are the state. The technology belongs to them.
Not my technology, brother. I'm a filthy capitalist, remember? Look, why make deals with the West? Why make deals with a capitalist system?
We can't avoid having trade relations with the West.
Oh, damn right.
But whatever we do is done in the interests of socialism. We are not buying capitalism. Whatever it is, once it is in the USSR, it belongs to the Soviet state.
That's what I'm saying.
Our trade relations with the West in no way impinge on the basic principles of communism in the USSR. There is no capitalism in the Soviet Union.
What is the man saying?
What about the manufacturing process? Would the whole laser cannon be put together in Russia?
Good Lord, no. Once we've perfected the component, it will be assembled here at our UK aerospace division, which means we can honour our contract to the Ministry of Defence, jobs for all. There's no question of selling the Soviet Union an armament system. Don't look at it like that. All we will be doing in Russia is research and development. That's the way to think about it.
Of course.
Once we've negotiated the contracts, we can manage the whole transaction to the Baluchistan connection.
What? Well, where's Baluchistan?
Exactly. Just an easy reference for doing business through a subsidiary which nobody's ever heard. Common enough practice. We'll do the whole thing through one of our subsidiaries in a country where these embargoes and questions of national interest no longer apply. Egypt, Turkey, Africa, somewhere like that. You'll stay to dinner, Teddy?
Oh, yes, of course.
There are some kinds of technology we just don't sell. It's ours. If you want it, you've got to take us with it.
Who is that over there?
Geoffrey Blake.
No. Who's it with him?
Mr. Kozlov, Russian trade delegation chap. Come over and say hello.
I have not got the power to change the constitution of the Soviet Union. You know that.
Maybe not. But you can carry the word to the right ears, as you always do. That's why they trust you so much.
Geoffrey!
Here, play that at your next fundraising party for orphans in exile. Edward.
Mr. Kozlov, Russian trade delegation, lives in Highgate. Charming spot, Highgate. Everett Whittaker. He's an MP, aren't you, Teddy? How's it all going? Had time for your chat, I hope? Rather busy here today.
Yes, we've talked our way through it.
Good. Tea. Let's go and find a cup.
Sir Peter, you must understand we will try to give you some kind of guarantee to allow you control of your technology. That is the official word I can give in confidence to you.
It is both welcome and necessary, Mr. Kozlov.
You see, you're not the only company making this kind of demand. We are working on it, but it takes time. Understand that. Please.
Okay. Understood.
The Russians picked up on Pillman's move to up the interest rate.
That's impossible.
I'm telling you, they picked up on it. It may cost us a few points.
But Pillman's dropped out. I already told Peter. He was thrown out of the cabinet meeting last Wednesday.
Took too long.
You have to accept that in government circles, things sometimes take longer than you expect.
No, I don't. I don't have to accept that at all. And if you should ever hope to aspire above the rank of political dog's body, you should also stop accepting it. We could have lost the whole deal.
But you haven't.
We could have lost it.
But you haven't lost it, Geoffrey, and the credits are secure.
Nothing, absolutely nothing, must be allowed to interfere with the flow of those credits, and that includes Pillman and the rest of them.
I think you've made that point.
Any mention of laser technology inside Whitehall must be buried without trace. Nothing even mildly unfavorable must be allowed to reach the surface.
It is done, Geoffrey.
Sir Peter wanted me to make that perfectly clear.
You've done that, now drop it.
Oh, yes. Word is that in another 6 months' time, there's going to be mayhem in another little corner of Southeast Asia. If you want to make some smart money, I think I can put your finger on some stock that's going to treble in a short time. If you're interested, let me know.
You're devoid of conscience, aren't you?
Devoid of what?
You have no loyalty, except to your wealth and your overinflated sense of self-importance.
That is only partially true. My loyalties are to myself and to the company. Where else would you have me place my loyalties? With kings and queens? With governments? The company outlives them all. Your nationalism and your patriotism mean nothing to me.
Perhaps you may not have noticed, but there's a deal of difference between car tires and laser weapons.
Bet your ass I've noticed.
You may not be aware of it or wish to acknowledge it, but there is such a thing as the national interest. You are selling armaments to Russia.
Now, Edward, that is not the way to look at it. You know that.
You are dealing against the national interest. Now, don't you interrupt me. That is my opinion. I cannot be a party to this. I cannot help you. I'm not going to obstruct you, but in the matter of the laser weapons, I will not help you. We've enough problems funding our own defense budget without chipping in to help out Russia.
Afraid I can't let you do that, Edward.
That is my decision, not yours.
Even a neutral stance would be obstructive to us. I have an investment to protect. The workers here, the British workers, they don't appreciate what they've got. I'm sure you agree with that. That is why we are taking it away from them. People must work for us on our terms, otherwise they won't work at all. Can't seem to get that into their thick skulls, can they? We've been telling them for years. They're going to have to come in line. They're going to have to settle for exactly what we give them, and no more. Those are our terms.
I feel deeply compromised in this matter. I cannot help you.
What we have in Russia, all over the Eastern Bloc, is an employer's dream. Russian workers keep their traps shut and get on with their job. They strike, they get knocked on the skull and locked up as criminals. Now, that's what I call a solid investment. Back it, put your money on it. Russia is an important investment from which the company reaps massive returns by courtesy of the state. And we have a clear-cut commitment to support and maintain that investment, to maintain the communist status quo. You have to realize that. The corporation is a defender of the state with no interest in the freedom of the individual. The gulags are an investment to be maintained and protected. So you see, Edward, you really can't back out at this time, can you?
I have a creeping feeling in my gut, especially when I'm in your presence, that you are feeding the beast that will devour us all. You're gun running. You're dealing with the enemy. There's no way around it. That is what they are, the enemy.
Don't you forget that. I want you to go on saying that, Edward, loud and clear. Russia is the enemy, the beast that will devour us all.
I'm afraid your sarcasm's lost on me.
Oh, come on, Teddy. How can you have an arms industry without an enemy? Got to have an enemy. Can't demand that a nation make economic sacrifices on the one hand and then convince them that it's in their interest to spend billions of pounds of their money on nuclear armaments because somebody's waving a stick at them in Chad or Ooga Booga. You've got to have an enemy. Thank God for Russia. She's the greatest enemy we ever had. Let's not forget that.
You're a thug. I won't say a fascist, but it sounds like an excuse. You trade on decency. You're a thug.
Understand, Whittaker, that life on this planet is not going to get any better, except for the few. Now, I recognized that as a reality long ago. And if governments and politicians want to stay in power, they are going to have to go with those who hold the power, with us. They are going to have to join our organizations, our clubs, our councils, our commissions. Otherwise, they may as well forget it and join the Sally Army. Or start digging their pit. Now, we've got a lot of work to tie up over the next few days, and I want you to ring me on Monday morning. Just to let me know that everything's fine at your end.
UKM Aerospace leads the world. Bulletin. From UKM Defence Research Laboratories, a new laser cannon exploiting satellite potential on anti-ICBM missions. Scanning. High-resolution remote sensing array, plus laser lock-on and tracking device. Target survey, constant. In this conceptual space battle scenario, a geostationary satellite houses the UKM laser cannon and a surveillance system capable of scanning over an area of 22,400,000 square kilometers. The launching of hostile ICBMs from deep within enemy territory is detected by the high-resolution remote sensing array. Defensive counteraction is swift. The laser lock-on and tracking device is accurate over an Earth satellite distance of 36,600 kilometers. Seconds after leaving their launch pad in Russia, the Soviet missiles are knocked out by the high-energy deuterium fluoride laser cannon. For reasons of security, precise firing potential data is classified at this time, but we can reveal that the potential is in excess of 50 50 firings. Details from UKM. Our technology is your security.
Надо объяснить, почему я хочу зачитать текст заявления. Так можно избежать неправильного понимания. Объясните, что я плохо говорю по-английски.
Конечно. Dr. Bavitsky feels it would be better if he could read his statement to you. That way he could be certain that his poor command of the English language will not cause any misunderstanding.
By all means, Dr. Bavitsky.
Sir Peter, I have understood your reluctance in the past to provide up-to-date technology without safeguards over your company's proprietary and commercial rights. Therefore, as Vice Chairman for the State Committee for Science and Technology, I appreciate the highly sophisticated nature of technology your company is now making available to the Soviet Union. Officially, it is not possible for the Soviet Union to recognize joint ventures entailing equity ownership by your company in the Soviet Union. But I am here to assure you that the Soviet Union is sympathetic to your situation, and in the interest of further trade between us, we are working towards giving you the terms and conditions that you require. We therefore unofficially concede proprietary and corporate rights to your company concerning both your technology and the research and the development program. The presence of your company, including personnel, will be welcome in Russia.
Thank you, Dr. Bavitsky. Let's go through, shall we?
Gentlemen, if you'd first care to sign the cooperation agreement. And this is the protocol agreement for general research and development.
Dr. Bavitsky, ladies and gentlemen, friends from the Soviet Union, I consider the signing of these agreements to be something of a triumph for both UKM, our company, and those of us in industry who believe in the importance of trade between our two countries and Eastern Europe as a whole. The agreements we have signed today will help to strengthen the bond of peaceful coexistence between our two countries. They also mean more employment for our workers at home. And I would like to extend to you the gratitude of the British workers and trade unionists whose skilled labour will be employed to manufacture the technological equipment we are proud to export to the Soviet Union. Einstein, the scientist, was once asked, who will win World War III? Einstein replied that he did not know, but he could state with certainty there would be no World War IV. With this in view, we look to the future with optimism, certain in the knowledge that trade will always find a way of maintaining peace between nations, even in the coldest political climate and times of disagreement and strife. Thank you.